Trainer Anade, and this is Backpack Hero, a 3-character showcase. Arya is commentating.
Hello. I have over 300 hours in this game, and so I'll be able to commentate because it is a very fast-paced run, and Sirius would not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Not they would not be able to do it themselves.
So yeah, I'm just gonna get going and then we can talk about it. 3, 2, 1, go.
So Backpack Hero is a inventory management roguelike in the style of, similar concepts and conceits to the other games like Slay the Spire, but instead of a deck you're building a backpack where you place items and you're using them. And again, you have a map that goes through in various different areas that you can go through, and the goal is to get through, for this particular showcase, is to get through 9 floors with 3 different characters. Each set of 3 floors, after each set of 3 floors, there's a boss, and a large part of the run will be getting yourself, your backpack, in a position of readiness to be able to fight the bosses. And as you saw, when you gain levels, you increase the size of the backpack. So you make the backpack bigger, and you're placing items in that backpack to try to maximize space. In general, items that are bigger tend to be better. But it's not a one-to-one rule. And there's also, it's all about getting the items quickly. For the speed run, it's all about moving quickly, trying to doing the minimum amount of fights to make sure you're not too underleveled and can handle the encounters, but not so bad that you are, taking unnecessary risks in fights. So, as you can see, we've already gained 2 levels, and we're about finishing with this floor. Once Anade finishes with this backpack inventory management. Again, this is the big part of the run, is trying to take advantage of the events and mini games in order to, the events and fights to get the items you need. As you can see, we did this game is this little mini game of Pachinko that we deal with here is a way to get some items quickly for you. And we're just be running through this quickly, trying to get the last of the items.
That took longer
and
than
we're done
I
with
wanted,
floor.
but
Yeah, it took longer than floor 1. Yeah, the positioning, as you saw, Anade was moving positioning of the different items, and the reason for that being is that sometimes position matters. Like the helmets work better, and sometimes some of the helmets don't even. These 2 helmets in particular don't even work unless they are at the top of your backpack. They're also in the shoe at the bottom. That works best if it's at the bottom of the backpack. And so, the order and positioning of the things matter in the backpack, as well as like some things need to be next to the other. We don't have anything like that at this moment. Oh, well, the armor. If you have armor next to the helmet, it increases the shield value of the armor. And just like in something like Slay the Spire, armor is refreshed at the end of every turn, and you are trying to avoid the damage and stuff. So.
and important. I don't have enough gold. I'm just going to leave. Importantly, there is so much RNG. This is a rogue like. So none of these runs are technically guaranteed to finish.
Yeah. The actual speed run for the game, the one character 9 floor speed run is something like 5 minutes. It's using an older version of the game. It might not be possible anymore. I don't know, but it is. The reason why it's 5 minutes is because it's very reset dependent. Like, you are going to be running through these things very quickly till you get the perfect set of items. This particular category that we created was a way to help us make something that's more marathon friendly, where we're going to get through the runs, well, at least that's the goal, hope to get through the runs, and without, causing too much difficulty for us. So yeah, we just, as you saw, those three items, those are relics, those are unique items that happen at the end of these bosses, and we are moving quickly through these. That I assume that relic you're just gonna sell that one for money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
none of
should.
those relics really good for this particular run. We got lucky in that there's a shop right next to the first store, so we'll sell those items because gold is useful occasionally for the forge. We saw the anvil on the last map. We didn't go to it because it was just out of the way. But more importantly, there was an elite, which was that chasing guy following us, and we tried to avoid those fights for the speed run because they are harder.
Slow.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't mention, as we're going quickly, is just like in Slay the Spire and other roguelikes, the numbers at the top represent like the actions that they're going to take. So they're going to shield or they're going to guard or anything like that. You can get an idea of like what they're going to do, so you know how to plan your turn around that fact. And so we are moving through. We're trying to find what items we're going to use, and hopefully we can get a better weapon than this starter sword. But at the moment, that's all we have. We're trying to. We found the mini sword. This is one of those positional items where that sword does more damage if it is to the left of a shield. It's designed to work with a shield, and it's better than the big shield. Does the same amount of damage, but it's better because it's smaller. It takes up less space. You can put more things in your backpack. Especially in the speed run where you are frequently running out of, we're under leveled and doing less fights. Backpack size is the biggest resource that you can have. As you can see, the slime that just overtook the backpack, is called a hazard in the and they are certain enemies will place those hazards out, and they all do something slightly different. That one grows throughout your backpack, but luckily it's set so that when you destroy one of them, it destroys all of them that are adjacent to it. So it helps with it takes up things quickly, but it will also get out of your backpack quickly.
Dang it. So, and
Not-
of course,
yeah.
the whole thing was an extra fight that I didn't need to do, but I was really hoping that there would be some good stuff at that forge to make our weapons and or armor better. And then there wasn't. But, alright, moving on.
Yeah. Another resource that you have access that in addition to the energy, that's one of the ones we're looking for. It's rage. Rage increases the damage of the attack by 1 for each rage value, and it goes up. So adding rage to the weapon means every time we use that little sword, the rage value will increase and it'll do more damage the next time we use it. So, and that applies to all weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, so rage applies to all weapons that you would use, and we can just have that. So we increase our rage value each time we use that weapon. So it means our fights will take, we will keep up with enemies doing, the longer the fight goes on, the more damage we'll do, which will help us for some of the more complicated, more difficult fights that have more powerful enemies. So the other, besides, we got distracted by the forge, but those little blue orbs that are underneath that are in the backpack. Currently they're grayed out, so you can't see them, but those ones there, and what we got in this thing, that's mana. That's another resource that you have access to besides energy. Mana is good in that it doesn't take up. You can use most things that use mana don't use energy, but mana does not restore on its own. There are certain items that will restore mana if they exist, but we don't currently have any of those. But so once you use the mana, it's done for the fight, and it recharges at the end of every fight. It is nice, especially in the speedrun, to have some mana stuff, because that's extra stuff you can do on your turn, and you try not to have too many turns in the first place, So the more you can do, the better on each turn. The wand that we have, that little thing underneath the helmet, that's automatic damage every time it uses it takes 1 mana every turn and just uses it, so that's even better. That's just free damage, once until we run out of mana. So since we have 5 mana, that is five turns of just extra damage, and the rage applies to that weapon as well. So increasing the rage increases the value of that, and that applies damage to everybody. So hence why we're trying to add more and more mana to give us more turns on that engine wand, or also giving us the ability, if we find another mana using thing. At the moment we're just moving forward. That black chest we saw is a cursed chest. And the cursed chest gives you items. Somewhat, I feel like the items are slightly better than the non-cursed chest, but the downside is you get a curse, and the curse will is as an item that once you put into your backpack, or once you see the curse, it follows you around until the item is cleansed. So that item will stick in your backpack, or if you don't take it, it'll throw up in loot, overriding one of the items you get normally from a fight. So we try to avoid, again, for the speedruns, we try to avoid the curses because of the fact that you lose options, and getting the better option, losing those that potential for another weapon is not great. So we are kind of going through trying to get these fights completed, and this might be one of those times will be good for donations or messages from the sponsors, as we're just kind of going through this floor. We're getting ready we're on floor 5, we'll go be floor 6 shortly.
So technically, to go faster, like, I wouldn't be checking gold piles, I wouldn't be checking most of the chests or the question marks or anything, but for the speed run, it's better to be a little safer than it is to go sometimes, like, the fastest way. Or, well, specifically for the multi-character speedrun, I mean.
Right, yeah. The part that's hard is, if you're going too fast, you might not succeed your run. So we are doing some safety strats here, trying to get a little bit more items than we normally would do for the speedrun to get the best time possible. But we're prioritizing finishing runs over getting the fastest time. Again, the fastest time requires lots of retries to get the perfect thing. You skip more fights in order to get as good a time as you can. So yeah, and that's the same thing with this healer, right? Best way to do it would not be talk to her. She does increases our maximum hit points, or heals us some, or removes curses, but she takes time. And so we're going into the last set of 3 levels. There are 2 staircases that go up. Each of those staircases are a different theme. At the floor 7, 8, 9, it's ice versus fire, but there are different theme levels in each of the different sets of 3. There is one set that is generally slightly easier than the other 3 sets, and we are, for the speedrun purposes, we are going through that set, the easy sets.
In general.
On each of in general, yeah. There are sometimes cases where you might want to take one of the harder levels, but we are most likely going to be taking. You're not going to see the other 3 zones most likely in this speed run. So we're in the magma core right now, floor 7, going through things and hoping to get any other additional items. What items are you looking for right now? What kind of items would you be looking for at this moment?
mean, at this point, I'm pretty good. I kind of want items to sell, but at the same time, selling the items takes a lot more time. So I'm feeling okay with this setup. I'm not going to
Okay.
take the time to go sell the frog.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the
In general,
frog
so-
isn't useful.
items are, have the rare, common, uncommon kind of things, and the more rare it is, the more it's worth to sell. But so that's why I grabbed that frog, even though the frog isn't useful to me, is just to have something to sell so that I can use the forge to add good stuff to my other items.
Yeah. Yeah, this fire is another one of the hazards. It is slightly different, and just like like the ooze, it does grow not nearly as fast as the ooze grows, but it doesn't take any energy to do it. It just when you use it, it adds burn to you. And there are two different types of stacking damage in this game. There's both poison and burn. Both of them are present in the magma zone. The burn, the big difference between burn and poison is that burn applies before shield, poison applies after shield. So you ignores shield, right? Ignores the shield value. So poison is the better and the more dangerous, both by getting poisoned or by giving poison. You don't want that. It's definitely the stronger one. So we're just trying to. We don't have any. Right now, we don't have any items that can give us that, but it's something we are.
Yeah,
We try to get if we
ring.
can.
The ring has regen, just as a safety. Sorry, my brain fuzzed for a second. I thought you were talking about something else. There we go. That's what I wanted.
That's the other best forge item, especially for the speed run, is that +1 energy. That's just again giving you more things to do per turn is good. You have that. And a locked. Yep. So we have. Yeah. So those gems are nice items in that they always enhance weapons in some way. So this particular gem, this enhances everything in its column, and it gives it extra damage. Again, they're all all the gems, like all the other items, are slightly different in how they apply the bonus and in what they apply that bonus to. That enemy just killed itself on the spikes, which is something that the spiky helmet in the top left corner has been giving us that is very nice, if you have the armor to take the hits, because they just hurt themselves when they run against you and attack you. So that's something that was very nice, that it hit itself 3 or 4 times against us and it just killed itself. So spikes is one of those another one of those effects that we try to use frequently. So we finally have a way to restore mana. That's what this shirt will do. Every round it will restore 2 mana, which means since we're only using 1 mana per turn now, we don't need any other mana stones.
Throw out all those stones.
So now we have a lot more space. We can.
So I interrupted you when you were talking about this guy earlier.
Oh yeah. So that's one of the elites. Super useless. That fly just gives you a discount on the shops, which we don't shop at the shop in the speedrun.
Not really.
At least Anade doesn't.
In a very rare case, I have grabbed something from the shop, but it's very rare.
Yeah. So, as you saw, we used that mana and it immediately restored because of the shirt. The order of what items trigger, I don't fully understand of how it works. I think it goes from top left to bottom right, but it doesn't seem perfect in that sense. So we are we're just kind of going through the fight now as King. This is King. This is the final boss. Well, one of the final bosses.
This is the hardest final boss.
Yes,
but
by
we
far.
have so much rage. That plus our regenerating engine wand, like, honestly, he's not that scary this time around. Of course, now that I said that, it means the next character we're gonna get squished by him, but
Yeah.
there we go.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So we are about to switch to the next character as soon as we get this cheese. With this cheese, it'll show new game. And then we go on to the next character. And the next character we're doing is Crate.
CR8.
And CR8, sorry. CR8.
No, he's great.
Crate works slightly different. All the characters work slightly differently, but Crate is the most, in my opinion, the most different in that you don't use the items themselves. You use it has charge instead, and that charge, just as you'll see, just kind of goes through your backpack and just does stuff. It hits things. It takes 3 energy worth of charge, and if the thing takes 1 energy to use, it takes 1 energy to use the charge, and when it runs out, when it reaches to 0 energy, then the charge goes away. And in addition, you don't make spaces one at a time. You use you do these things with you make the backpack together by putting Tetronimals into the backpack into contiguous spaces. Ooh, that's very nice. Those gooey things they do poison on everybody or on the current person.
Cool, I'm just being
And,
chased by an elite this time.
Yeah, so I'll explain the elite now. Finally, the elites, they're the sleep. They start sleeping on the map, and while they are sleeping, they kind of don't do that. But as soon as you get into their eyesight, move into the map space where that can see the unit, to see the character, you'll immediately be chased by that enemy, and nice. Now we have basically a full loop, or not a full loop. It's not returning, but it's a loop. And the elite will chase you until it stops, and will go forever until it doesn't anymore. And we will, as you can see, it's chasing us. And
So, like, normally for the speedrun, I would go check that chest, but because I'm being chased by an elite, I'm just gonna be like, nah, I'm just gonna skip it.
yeah, the elites are much harder, and the reward you get from the elite is only slightly better than what you would get without the elite. So, it's just not worth the risk. It takes much longer, and it's just, again, risky.
No,
So.
obviously, I'm gonna do this. One of the things is that crate can take a while because of just the way it taking time going through. I'm gonna do that, but I'm not gonna switch it just yet. But despite that, crate is still worth it. Dang it. Okay, so I need a weapon. I'm not going to do it just yet.
Yeah. So yeah, crate.
Speaking
The reason
of
why
a
it makes sense to make
weapon-
longer.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the reason why you would potentially have. That's a good one. Just
Yeah, but it's so big. That takes 2 energy.
did I take 2 energy?
It does. Ooh, wait. No, I know what to do.
Perfect. Yeah. That wings, it automatically uses the item in that wings, and so it's really good. It will do the damage for that weapon every turn without having to spend the energy cost on it. So that's what the evil laugh was. So,
hey, listen.
yeah, the reason we are grabbing, we're making the charge go longer. Like obviously, we could potentially make the thing hit the sword 3 times quicker. The main reason to avoid that is the shield that Crate starts with has a special property of it gives more block the longer it moves, and so we want to hit it as late in the cycle as possible until we get a better way to get block, because right now we have no other armor. It would be very difficult to get that block. So we are trying to get this thing done as quickly as possible.
Shoot, I forgot about that fact.
Yeah, so one thing you saw is that the shield, if any charge that gets out of the backpack is wasted. Now we have a full loop. At this point, we have a full circle. It'll just go around in a square forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have a shop.
So we are trying to just, again, make the backpack. It is a little bit, that's one of the problems with Crate is it does take a little bit more thinking as you try to make sure your backpack will hit the things you need. You can't just rely on having one item for the most part, because of the fact that you just don't have that. You don't have access to. You can't just hit one item over and over again. Usually, you have to be a lot more careful in making that. So yeah, again, we got lucky and we have Rage being added to our weapons. Oh, yeah, that'll reduce it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot more thinking, and I have to consider each where it's going to go, how it's going to bounce back. I had arranged things slightly wrong that last time. But it's fine. It's fine. We're good.
By the way, this short sword should probably not be there because it's not getting the shield bonus.
Oh, you're right. It's not. Thank you for that. That's why I had it there originally. I'm going to do that then. Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
Alright.
But yeah, that's why, again, it's a little bit more thinking involved with Crate, but it's very nice to have that full loop, so we can kind of actually don't even need the reverser anymore.
Yeah, I forgot that I had planned to do that slightly differently, but it works.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do that for now.
Yeah, there we go. Now it would cool.
I will accept.
That's the one that keeps your block.
Yeah, half the block.
Half unused. Yeah, so that relic, the relics are generally a way to break the rules in some way. I mean, even more so than the items itself. But that relic is nice, especially because some terms do more damage than others. Especially with Crate, where you always get the same amount of. Basically, your turn is always the same turn. That allows you to have the turns that are less dangerous, where you don't have to use all of it. You get some of your block back at the end of the turn, so you can, hopefully, if we manage to save any of it, not have to start from zero. Because normally block goes away at the end of every turn. we have a pretty good setup so far. We have no the one thing we're missing is a good way to mitigate damage. We have no block, we have no regen, so we are, a bad fight could turn the tide. One bad fight could end the run. And we have to figure out a way to deal with that.
Please,
Hopefully we can
please
get
don't
some more.
commentators curse me.
I just want to give more speedrun.
I understand. I still don't appreciate it. Yeah, that's all fine then. Hey, dang it. Okay, well,
We need to get some gold. Yeah, so that will be good. We have regen on this forge. Once we can sell something, when we have some items we could sell. Like every item can be sold. Even normally, it's not worth it to sell like commons if you're playing casually, but each of those are worth 3. Everything is we're going to get the regen.
obviously we do
One thing is,
sorry, I was gonna say we do like more damage, but for this, sometimes that safety is a little more important.
yeah. Again, since we didn't have any uncommon items, we wouldn't be able to get to the 10 gold we needed without doing another fight. And there is a limit to the size of the backpack. It's just so we can't always make it as big as we want it to make it. We can't just add on forever. We finally have some armor now that's not tied to the shield being used.
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab this to sell it.
Yeah, we're close to the shop.
Yeah. We have rage, so I'm gonna sell that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the mana, you have the mana plant.
Yeah.
So you don't need the book. But yeah, so we are going, on floor 5. We're almost, again, seeing the same enemies again because we're went back to the deep cave this time. We didn't go to the alternate route, which is the enchanted swamp. The enemies in there tend to have a lot more poison, and regen and stuff like that. So we try to avoid. That's why we really want to avoid that location whenever we can. Well, we always can, but we're gonna try to avoid that location because it's dangerous. You don't actually need more than 1 mana. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that sword is nice because it will automatically, it'll also, in addition to being a sword, it will also do damage.
But I then have to figure out how to arrange things.
Because you want to hit it, right?
Yeah. I mean, that would be preferable.
Yeah, not just have it be a giant +3 damage.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need that. Oop.
Yeah, one thing I've done before, I've messed my entire run up before by accidentally leaving something out of my bag. And
Okay. And I just want to point out, I appreciate that with Crate you can test. That is highly appreciated. You saw me do that very briefly there. I was just making sure that the thing that I set up didn't completely break everything for all time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not getting the shield bonus.
Oh,
Again.
shoot. Yeah.
Oh, so that what would just be placed on the map is a blessing. It's kind of the opposite of a curse. It's an anti-curse, where it will you can still place it on top of your other items in the backpack, but it has a positive benefit, and you generally can't. If you use them, it does. They're like a weapon and stuff. They're all very different things. When you gain a blessing, you get something random. Um, yes, I see that if it's because you make it so short, it's hard to.
Mm.
Yeah, no, it's. I don't know if there's a way to do it, honestly. But doing the extra damage with the spear makes up for the fact that you're not getting that
Yeah.
+2 damage.
And it still has the the rage on it,
Yeah,
which is nice.
and you're using the mana, the wand to live a few more times now.
Yeah. Alright,
So.
let's do it that way.
Yeah, so we have a guy chasing us, so it's not ideal. So we don't have we won't be able to be as careful about we have to be more careful with how we move through the map. And we'll have the ability to get through this fight pretty quickly. So we're just moving through. We're almost at the end of this floor, which we'll then be fighting the next boss again. And the bosses at the end of these 3 areas, there's a small pool of bosses that can show up at each 3 zones. We'll see if we get the same ones again. They're all slightly different way to beat them, and there is actually a way, if you're trying to plan out your route, there is a way to see which boss will be shown up at the end of every floor. Again, for the speedrun, we skipped that. But it is a nice little way to telegraph some of this information for you.
I know I'm losing, but I think it's gonna be my best bet right now.
Yeah.
Oh wait, then we run into this issue again.
But it's not touching it yet. It's not long enough to have it be pointing at it and be touched.
Yeah.
Unless you use your shield someplace else, another way to use the shield somehow.
Yeah.
Could you point the shield at? You can point the. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah. This is the hard
no
thinky part.
Yeah, this is the part that requires some thinking. You have to figure out how to use it, and why Crate is, a dangerous character for this 3-character one, because when you can go well, it can go very well. It can go very quickly. However, it does sometimes lead to these analysis paralysis things where you just don't have great options for your.
Yeah. I don't think I have. I also. Oh, I do have that.
Yeah. So we're probably gonna fight an elite at this point. Most likely, that's.
Yep.
So we'll see. And these elite.
Oof.
Okay, so this one isn't too bad. It's 3 of these things. This one is all of these enemies can show up in regular fights. They just not normally have to fight this particular arrangement of 3. It's a little bit more complicated. We did get rid of one of them, both of them very quickly, so I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't really do much more than never 10 damage per turn, and we have 25 block. So we'll be fine with a survival standpoint, as long as we, especially since with our poison and our poison and rage. The one interesting thing is that those bricks at the bottom of the screen. Bricks is another way to get charge, to get block. It will create those. It will create the charge. It will create block based on adjacent structures generally. So you would be getting those extra. With only 2 of them, it's only adding 2 block, but it's something that can easily grow to be big. And also, one of the nice things is one of the forge things is adding haste to structures automatically, and haste will mean your block will increase. Haste is to block what rage is to attack.
Yes.
So we can get, especially if we can get 2 of those, means that we can keep up with scaling damage that the enemies have, because that's something that is important to note, is that we have everything scales with the enemy. The enemy damage always scales up, even if you it doesn't have rage specifically. Sometimes that scaling damage is very problematic for a run. If you're not doing enough damage quick enough, even if you are successfully, doing damage, you need to you might end up not being able to keep up with their scaling damage and ending up losing the fight.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we really wanted rage earlier in the fight, or earlier in each character's run. I'm gonna.
So that microchip, what that does, is one of the starter items for Crate specifically, and it allows you to if you make a mistake during your run, you can use that to rearrange your backpack in the middle of a fight. Normally you can't touch that. It costs 3 energy to do that. And so it's nice for backup, as well as if we have an ability to use consumables. Like this route is so tight, we can't add any consumables to our route easily, but it would, in theory, allow us to do that. So we are now going into floor 7, going back into the magma core. We are moving through very quickly, and one thing you'll see in that there are numbers on some of these items on the map. Every time you move a square, that number decreases. If the number gets to 0, the square disappears, and anything inside that just goes away. That's normally not that big of an issue for the speedrun, because we either don't care, or we will just make a beeline to there anyway, depending on what that specific thing was. Get rid of the plant.
I mean, it's not really, because we're going back and forth so much, it's not really doing anything anyway. So, unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, so we didn't not get the haste on the shield, but
just going on.
One thing that's interesting about both the brick and the glove is that they have a property called heavy. Heavy things sink. They go to the bottom of the backpack. And if they're not at the bottom of the backpack and they're placed somewhere above the bottom of the backpack, they'll fall to the bottom and knock everything else out of it. Which is super great from trying to keep your backpack, which is why those bricks are at the bottom. One nice thing is that heavy things can sit on top of other heavy things. So that glove also is heavy, and also requires it to be, it does more block if it's for every square to the right. So because we have those bricks, we have a nice little cushion to put that heavy glove on, so we can get more block out of it, which is very nice.
Oh wait, I already went to the thing, so I don't need that. Never mind.
Oh yeah, this is floor 8.
Yeah.
yeah, we're not. The Forge didn't have anything, so
Yep.
at this point we don't really care about money anymore, because we're not going to be getting that money anymore, and so we are probably just going straight for the door.
Yeah.
Right, for the stairs going up to floor 9. Our layout is not perfect, but is probably as good as we're going to get for this purposes of this fight, for this run. Unfortunately, we don't have haste, which is, our block is fixed at that 32 per turn. But with the regen and with the rage, hopefully the fight will be done quickly enough that that won't become a problem. And we will be moving through these fights hopefully fairly quickly at this point. Yeah, we're just moving, getting some extra blessing, getting ready for that final fight with hopefully not King. Consumables are something we use a lot in the speed run because of the fact that we have, they're quick to grab, and they do extra damage or do extra things that gives us that little bit of boost to the fight.
And that's where that microchip that we started with in the beginning is useful.
Right, because we put the consumable in, and then we once we used it, we took the consumable back out.
Similar idea here.
Yeah. We'll be able to just
and
go
we're
on.
Just gonna go.
Yeah, and we have that food, which will give us 4 extra energy for the first turn. And is it King again?
It is King. So fingers crossed.
Yep. King has the unfortunate effect of he gets rage every single time you attack him.
So you see this number going up and up.
Yep. So hopefully we don't die on turn 1.
No, we're not going to.
No, we're not going to die on turn 1. But we now have... yeah, so we will go through and we'll add that burn to King, so hopefully his damage he will also be taking that continuous damage. We might have to redo this fight, but we'll see.
We're not dead yet.
We're not dead yet. Yeah, because we have that really lot of rage, hopefully we will be able to survive long enough to get through this fight.
Come on. Yes!
Yeah. That was very close. If we had not killed him that turn, we would have lied. But we succeeded. That's why rage and extra energy are so powerful, because the more you can do, the more you're able to get through these fights quickly.
Alright, so new character, new stuff. So Satchel.
Yep. Yeah. This is Satchel. So Satchel is the bird bard, and Satchel has a similar mechanic to Crate, where his backpack is weirdly shaped. But the interesting thing about Satchel is he does not have to have his items, his things adjacent to each other. He has something called, he makes pockets, and also he has charm. As you can see, we got these enemies now on our side. So we are moving through these fights, and we are trying to get the levels up with, again, placing the items or pockets there don't have to be attached, and certain items work with pockets. They work at the mechanic where they will do more damage or do something based on what's in the same pocket or what's in a different pocket. And so we are taking advantage of that mechanic. We tend to make Satchel's pockets as disparate as possible until we need otherwise, because generally having more pockets is better for Satchel, even though you end up with being able to not fit as many big items, right? Big items get harder to fit, because right now we don't have any other If we got another 2x2 item, we don't have any place to put it, and we very rarely do have places to put 2x2 items. So we are that is one risk, or like long items, like
What is this?
yeah, yeah. So one nice thing is we have that that pouch that we got. That pouch allows you to put items in it. They can't be used from there, but it is good for keeping items that are of high quality for the purposes of selling them. One of the better items for getting lots of income. If you want something out of the pocket, you have to, out of combat or use the reorganize, which takes 3 energy. So, it's something, again, mostly used for selling items. And if we know or saving it for when you have packback does expand. So we are going through and trying to get these enemies on our side. The way charm works is if the charm status ever is greater than or equal to their current health, they get charmed. And if everybody is charmed in the allied turn, the enemy turn, it will be they'll run away, as you can see, and they'll give you the XP as if you defeated them. But you don't generally, satchel runs work best when you work with charm, because the nice thing about charm is it doesn't really matter for the purposes of blocking, it ignores armor values, right? It just kind of bypasses armor. It doesn't do any damage to them, but like it equal to their health. Their armor doesn't count for their health, and in addition, it doesn't count for things like rage. So like if we find King again and we were charming him, he wouldn't get any rage because we're not attacking him. And so that is kind of the nice thing about the charm mechanic. It works very differently than the other ones, and gives you that ability to play the game in a little slightly different manner. Sometimes that's a problem, like this one. This enemy requires you to do a certain amount of damage to him to undo his little big blow.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah. Since we don't do any damage to him, he just kind of whacked us like that. And we just kind of hope we can charm him this turn, yeah. And they will do their attacks for you on their enemies, on the enemies if you manage to charm them, and so it is you still do damage as Satchel, just generally not yourself. So we are now going to sell some of these items we've been storing, or maybe and get us here. Are you going to buy something?
I was debating it, honestly. After you said I don't buy things.
Yeah. I said we usually don't buy things. So yeah, this is a little scary. We're at 7 or 12 hit points.
Yeah, this
about to go into fourth.
We might have to restart this one.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's a special glove that's specifically related to pockets rather than spaces. So it gives extra block for each pocket to the right of that glove. So you want to place it in the leftmost pocket in a way that, hits more than one.
Alright, well, I'm gonna try. Probably not the smartest move, but we're gonna try.
Yeah.
Rude Rooster. We're actually good. We're good.
Yeah, that's actually good.
I just have to be careful.
Just don't attack him.
Yeah.
So the Rude Rooster is like King, but a lot less scary, because but in that every time you attack the rooster, it gains rage. But as we said, charm doesn't count as an attack. So if we don't really do that many attacks on him, he's not going to get that much rage. We won't increase his damage numbers nearly as much as sometimes in some other builds would do. So we can.
And I have
just
haste. So.
Oh right, the angel's armor does haste. So our haste keeps up with its block, so we're able to be able to avoid that fight pretty easily. We got pretty lucky with that third floor boss, and we might be taking advantage of the the healer's other ability, which is to heal damage.
Yeah, definitely.
You didn't grab the horn?
I know. I know you like it, but I do not.
Yeah. That horn is dangerous. It's a very interesting one because it does 2 energy, I believe, but it once
Yes.
it's there, it says you can't rotate any items, which is problematic sometimes because you end up with, especially in a satchel run where you don't have the ability to, like, your space is so limited that and rotating is sometimes very important.
That's why I don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
One interesting thing is you can see that wand is in 2 pockets. For that wand, it doesn't really matter, but the spaces exist even if there's like empty spaces. You can put them in the pockets. It's just they still are. The pockets only care about orthogonal connectedness. This is a very rude run for you.
Yeah.
This enemy is an early, in my opinion, an early run killer if you're not prepared for it, because it's the first enemy that will have spikes, and spikes that will make spikes, and if you're not prepared and you have lots of damage, if you're not able to do damage quickly, you will end up with
I don't
having
know why
these.
I'm holding on to these because I'm special.
That's fair. But because again, charm doesn't count as an attack, it doesn't trigger spikes either. So one of the nice things about Satchel, using the charm build, is generally one of the routes is generally the most common route for build for Satchel. There's also hammers. Hammers is another one of the unique items that Satchel has and none other characters have. Hammers boost other hammers, and they all cost 0 energy, but they're all, we use them once per turn, cost 0 energy, and boost each other. So that is, if you have a lot of hammers, it ends up with, a really nice, like, engine of use these hammers, boost these hammers, and you kind of put them in circles and end up with a really interesting hammer thing. But because it requires a lot of items in order to make it really work, it's not something we generally go for in the speedrun because, again, it's a little bit harder to manage. So we can finally get to see this bomb crab explode.
Boom.
It takes no damage does nothing for the first 2 turns, and then it finally explodes for a lot of damage and kills itself. Why we tend to take out that bomb crab early. Let's get rid of the hammer. Oh no. Okay. So yeah. We're just moving through, seeing these same enemies again, but this time with trying to get them into our hands. So some of the more dangerous enemies are actually nice right now because we have Satchel. We'll charm them up and we'll be able to get them on our side instead. So when they do their big damage attacks, they'll do them for us instead of the other way around. And so now they're going to be doing that lots of damage, and this is kind of the fun of Satchel runs. Like, those really strong enemies are going to just help us. Sometimes it ends up with a couple extra turns as some people run away. Just like the order of initiative sometimes means that the end game will trigger before the enemies are dead. You're not gonna use that item, the toy?
No, because it's for connected mana stones.
Oh, okay,
And
that's that
I'm
one.
just using that, so.
Yeah, no, I misunderstood which one. That one. There's 2 different toys. They look very similar. One of them is based on number of pockets. That one is based on mana stones. So the green mana stone has a special it's an early game. It's only uncommon. That is 3 mana, but it can only be used if it's connected to any other mana stones. It gets emptied automatically. So it's good as like you have 1 mana. It's a good way to get that, like, you know, take up a little bit of space, get your 3 mana. But obviously, if you don't have the mana for it, you don't have a way to regen it. It's just, you know, you can't grow it. It's only ever be used 3 times. And
that was rude.
Yeah, so we are getting poisoned here, which is not great, but hopefully we have a healer on our side too, so that's something that's kind of nice, is that she will heal us.
Well, if I don't do
instead
that.
of, yeah, as long as you don't do that, but you wouldn't be able to, you take the poison damage anyway, so.
Yeah, that's why I was debating.
Yeah, so we'll just be getting some items here. Again, consumables are good for the purposes of this speedrun, because again, they're generally really good. They're just one-time use, but since we're having less fights, you don't have to think too hard about what's the best fight to use them in.
I'm just gonna go check. Of course.
Yeah, we threw out the key just as you got the lock chest. That's why I don't bother with keys half the time, is like, you take up a spot in your inventory and I never end up using them. So, this boss is interesting because he will be doing more damage when you some of his turns. Like if you do enough damage to him to trigger his alternate attack, he actually does a lot more damage. So,
Yeah.
So we are just kind of trying to get him down as low as possible.
And this would be another time for, you know, messages or whatnot.
Yeah, there's lots of...
This
How's it
run
going?
in general is pretty good after the... Like, we have a lot of explaining at the beginning, and then there are a lot of new things throughout the run, but at the same time, there's lots of time where, like, we can pause.
So, the bottle is bigger than the other items, but it was the safest one to grab, right? That was why you grabbed that one?
Yeah.
It's the bottle line. Is the bottles for selling, or are you actually going to use that one?
No, because of my angel armor or whatever that's called.
Yeah, that's the one that if you have no block at the end of the turn, right?
Yeah, so it's not worth it. Oh, I forgot to sell that. Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah, we have so much gold at this point, and there isn't as, you know, nice of a escalating thing. The escalating damage generally comes from just having the ability to make enemies allies, and that's a nice way to get that bonus. So, you know, you don't really need money isn't as important for a satchel run.
Yeah.
So that's why we end up having 143 gold at the end of this run.
Well, I also
and
just was not having good options
Forges?
at the forges, yeah.
Yeah, like energy, +1 energy is still good, always, but again, we don't have that. We haven't had that option, and there is a forge specifically for adding charm, but we haven't seen any of that.
But I'll take haste to a structure.
Yep. That's why you keep 1 brick around, right?
Yeah, that was exactly why I was holding on to that brick.
Yeah, we don't need those mana stones.
Go away. I'm actually going to swap out that.
So that one does burn, yeah. So we'll, unfortunately, yeah, we'll have one more chance for a forge. Usually there's a forge in every slot for lore. There we go. Let's damage the instrument.
I mean, I'll do it, but since this one already does damage, I would prefer there is an option that adds, I'm not going to add it to any of the others, that adds charm to an instrument, which obviously is preferred. Might as well.
Yeah, just because, you get some of the advantages of that charm not counting as an attack. If you do damage, then it counts as an attack. It triggers spikes, so it's something you definitely want to be careful about with adding damage to instruments, because you might forget that it has that charm, has that poison, has that damage, and so like if we attacked the armored dude here, he would have his spikes damage on us, which would be problematic. A little bit, at least.
Yeah.
Use the electric guitar on it, or the bass guitar. I don't know which one it is.
This is a lute.
No, the guitar that does damage.
Oh,
Yeah.
Guitar. It's just a guitar.
Yeah. Okay. It counts as, it's a weapon too? It counts as a weapon too?
It does damage, so it counts as a weapon.
Yeah. Adding the keywords are important because sometimes things apply to keywords that don't always apply to other things. Like not all things that do damage are weapons, and not all things that adding damage to the weapon adding damage to an instrument doesn't turn it into a weapon. So things that buff weapons wouldn't affect those kind of things. Obviously, in this particular instance, we are adding it to the weapon, so it does count as one, so it can't take that burn. The gems only affect weapons, for example.
Yeah.
There are different kinds of instruments and accessories that will affect the weapons themselves, that affect instruments, but we haven't found any of those in this run.
Because I don't know what the boss is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually take it for a safety strat.
Yeah. That shield is also good because it's one of the few items that can reduce rage on enemies as well. So having that as a backup, especially if we run to King again, will be very necessary. So we can reduce that rage from our couple. We do, because we do have some attacks, and we don't have a lot of block. So having that advantage of being able to reduce his rage and also get block at the same time is worth giving up that one loot. With only 2 charm. Similarly for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Grabbing that wand is another safety strat, because that wand gives regen, gives 2 regen, so it gives us a little bit of like, okay, we're at 43 hit points.
Hey, Grandmaster.
Okay, this is actually really good. This is actually really good for us because Grandmaster has a really interesting mechanic where he summons 3 enemies at the beginning of the fight. His first turn is summon 3 enemies, and then he does nothing for a while. So we can just fight these 3 enemies, ignoring the Grandmaster altogether, and just charm all 3 of those enemies onto our side. We're adding burn, so that's not super great. They will not last the entire fight, but they'll charm them up, and they'll be fighting for us instead. And that'll give us the ability to get them onto our side, and they'll start attacking the enemies ourselves. They will work for us, and then we can then have them for a couple of turns, and then once we are good, we'll kind of just take out the Grandmaster. And the Grandmaster, again, it's weird because his attack pattern changes when his hit point gets to half. And since we have a lot of charm, it's possible that he won't be in his actually doing something phase for very long. Because we'll be building up his charm and burn at the same time. So once he triggers into his, oh, I'm actually going to do something, he guys could really wakes up and realize this is a serious fight, he'll probably be mostly defeated already. So he's finally woken up.
Because I have a decent amount of haste. So
yeah. So his, as I said, he had only 2 turns or so, 1 or 2 turns of actually doing something, and time will be coming up as soon as we.
Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we're good.
The time will be coming up as soon as we grab the feather quill, and that will be time.
Oh shoot! Okay, whatever. Everything's wrong.
But yeah, so that's time. 110 is actually, is that a record for you?
Yeah, that is a PB.
Yeah. This is, so, well, congrats. I mean, I saw a lot of golds and rainbows during this run, so
yeah,
that was very well done.
Thank you.
We luckily didn't have to do any restarts, and this is not an official category on speedrun.com for Backpack Hero. It's something that we came up with ourselves because for marathon safety, again, doing it one character, trying to get as fast, any percent run for this is much more a luck-based thing. This was designed for the idea for races and for marathons to give us a showcase of Backpack Hero in a way that similar, and it was inspired by the what I've seen for Hades runs. There are other 2 characters. We chose for the 3-character race we chose Purse, Satchel, and Crate because, or at least Anade chooses those because they won them the fastest. The other 2 characters, Tote the Frog works like a deck builder. We actually have a deck, and you put things in your backpack. It's a hand, and it is more complicated and slower in every way.
Yeah.
And Pochette has pets. I choose Pochette over Satchel because mostly for safety when I'm doing these, when I've been testing this thing myself. But if we, one way to incentivize is you could, basically increase it from a 3-character to a 4 or 5-character race if you wanted to add as an incentive for this run.
Mm-hmm. And there are also, another thing is bid wars for costumes. All of the characters have different costumes. Obviously, it's going to add a couple of seconds, except for the first character, to go through and select a costume. But technically, that is another option we could throw in as well.
Yes,
So yeah, a couple of different options. I know my timer no longer says the correct thing because I messed up all of my timer, but PB, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yeah, no problem. It was my pleasure.